It's been over a year since the government decided to cut EMAs, and now students all over the country are feeling the effects. So we caught up with several commentators and asked about the current state of education. As part of Barnardo's, you've recently released a report called Staying the Course, and in this report it suggests that the government clearly underestimates the importance of EMAs. Can you please elaborate on this for us?
We've seen over 2/3 of the funding that was previously available for education maintenance allowance being taken away from young people, and some of the results we found within the research are really quite worrying. We're finding that the young people are having to make very difficult choices now to go to college. They're not necessarily having enough money, so some are skipping meals, some are actually not being able to afford the books. What we're finding is that the young people who come from families most affected by the current economic downturn are finding it the most difficult to actually stay in education and training.
Stephen, with university applications now falling by 12% and various colleges around the country reporting a significant decline in the student numbers, in your opinion, what do you think is the cause for this decline?
I think there's a really big worry about even more young people dropping out of education at 16 or even at a younger age. And I think a big reason is the abolition of the education maintenance allowance. I think it had a very, very positive effect. And I agree with Barnardo's. What the government did was to say, we'll get rid of EMAs. There was a massive campaign, a big outcry from young people, so they came up with a bursary scheme. And because they came up with it at a late stage, they had to decide on the rules really, really quickly. And you get all sorts of injustice as a result. There are people in families with modest incomes who got the EMA who will not get the bursary, and some of them are having serious trouble affording staying on in education.
What we're calling on government to do is to reassess. What we do feel is that every young person that is eligible for free school meal criteria and is in need of this money can actually be guaranteed a £1,200 bursary to ensure that we don't see students going hungry just in order to actually afford their own education.
The main argument from the government is that cuts are inevitable. What, in your opinion, is a realistic solution to this problem?
Well, if the government actually take into account young people's views and ask young people what they want to do and use the UK Youth Parliament and British Youth Council and local youth councils and schools and colleges, then they could get a much better feedback regarding young people.
My view would be, let's look at those colleges or sixth forms that have succeeded in retaining their numbers of students through the bursaries, try to learn from those places as to why that's happened and ensure that good practice is adopted elsewhere.
So what do you think the long-term effects would be if none of these actions are put into place?
If access to education increasingly becomes reliant on people being able to afford it, that means that what we're going to see is that rich kids are going to be able to stay on and do the courses that they want and have a chance of going to university, increasing their life chances, and people who come from poorer backgrounds are going to have much more difficulty actually staying in education and maximising the future for themselves.
Some serious statements all around there. As you know, there's been a lot of sound bites in the media about the government claiming to care, so we asked them to take part in this item, but they declined. But don't worry, we know that you still care.